What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Guru Podcast. My name is Christian the Guru. I got some great soccer content for you guys today. We're going to talk about Spain and England, the two finalists of the Euro. And then we're going to talk about a very controversial statement made by Herve Renard this past weekend. In life, you need real friends. Friends who tell you the truth, not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. If you're wrong, to tell you wrong. If you're right, to tell you right. And the English media is that fake friend that always tell you what you want to hear. They've told us that England has one of the best roster in the world. They got all these world-class players. We got Harry Kane, we got Saka, we got Declan Rice. And they struggle all tournament. And I just don't understand that. Gareth Southgate has made some poor decisions, and we're going to talk about that. Congratulations to Spain, a much-deserved win. They were the better team. They dominated the middle of the park. They dominated the England midfield. Nico Williams and Yamal were just amazing. Great decision-making in the final third, and they were just a better team. And the final score doesn't tell the whole story. It was 2-1, but really it should have been 3-1. It should have been 3-0. They were just that much better. And let's talk about some of the Gareth Southgate decision making. It was just poor all tournament. The lack of pressing from England, I just don't understand that. You're telling me you got all these world-class players. You got Kane, you got Saka. Wouldn't you want your players to have the ball as much as possible if they're that good and they're playing against teams who are inferior? They didn't pressure the ball enough. When you pressure the ball, a lot of time you lure the other team into mistakes closer to their own box, and so it's easier to create chances that way. England had to build from the back a lot of times, and they weren't even that good at that. And so it made it harder for them to create chances. And Foden mentioned that they did work on pressing in trainings. That when they got to the games, people were just not doing what they were supposed to do. And as a coach, if you're the coach, you gotta have a problem with that. You got a deep bench. Why not change? If guys are not doing what they're supposed to do, make it change. You have one of the deepest bench in the tournament. You got Palmer, you got Watkins, you got Tony, you got Gordon, you got Eze. So like the idea that you just keep the same player when they're not doing what they're supposed to do is pathetic. And his decision making in the team selection was another big problem. He decided to play Trippier as a left back when he's a right-footed player. You got Harry Kane, who's your best player. He's actually the only world-class player you got. He's shown it time and time in the EPL and Bundesliga, so he's that guy. He's a striker. He needs services. You got to put the ball in the box. You got Foden on the left side. Foden usually comes inside. We know that. So you rely on Trippier to fill in the gap that he's leaving behind and provide the services. Trippier was unable to provide the services from the left side because he's not comfortable with his left foot. So he's always trying to use his right foot, so he's always trying to come inside. And that's a problem. So essentially, you're playing and your left side is dead. All the services are only coming from one side. That's a problem. The smarter thing to do was to play in the back of three. You have two wing backs. You play Saka as a left wing back. He's actually a left-footed player. Although he feels more comfortable playing on the right side, the situation will force you to play him on the left, and he can do that. And he did it. And he finally put him on the bench. He finally put Trippier on the bench at the end in the final. He should have done that 3 games ago. And I just don't understand it. And the decision to put Trent Alexander-Arnold on the bench, you should go to jail for that. One of the most talented players in the world, gifted on the ball, his ability to pick out passes, pinpoint accuracy, and a team that's struggling to create, you put him on the bench? I just don't understand it. And this idea that Declan Rice can play as a deep playmaker, he just doesn't have that. He's just not that guy. His greatest strength is ball retrieval. So he can't play in a system where he's a single pivot. He needs to be playing in a system where he's a double pivot and he's the one pushing up the field, pressuring, pushing up the ball. He's not Rodri. He can't distribute the ball. So that was a poor mistake. And Foden struggled all tournament. In the semifinals, he lost the ball 16 times, sorry. 1 chance created, 0 assists, and 0 goal. This guy was just out there doing cardio, honestly. And I don't even blame him because he plays for City. Well, we've seen him be creative, but it's easier to be creative in City because you got people moving. You got people making runs. You got Allen making runs. You got Bernardo Silva making runs. You playing in a system where it's just hard for you to find open guys. And he doesn't have the talent to create something out of nothing. He's not Zidane. And he struggled, and Southgate did nothing about it. Try something different. Maybe play Gordon on the left side for once. Foden played all tournament, and he just struggled. So that was pathetic. And another problem with the England team, and this is a problem that has been plaguing them for years, not just this tournament, is the lack of technically gifted midfielders. I decided to look at the assist leaders from last season in the EPL, and I was trying to find the first English midfielder to appear on the list. The first English midfielder to appear on the assist leader list from last year's season is James Maddison, and he was 13th. You mean to tell me in a league filled with English players, the first midfielder to appear on the assist leader list was 13th? That's a problem. I looked at Bellingham's stats for Madrid. He was 19th in assists with 6 assists all season. And mind you, he never got hurt. He was healthy all season, so he played a lot of minutes. La Liga is not really that strong of a league. So you mean to tell me in that league, with all the quality of players that surrounded you, all you could muster was 6 assists? That's just sad. He was 23rd in chances created in the whole league. Matter of fact, Modric, who's 45 years old at this point, created more chances than him, and he played less minutes because he didn't play every game, and a lot of time he came in the second half, or he started and came out in the second half. And how is it that he has more chances created than you, and you're an attacking midfielder? This guy is like a mini Frank Lampard. He's more of a striker or more of a second striker than a midfielder. Yeah, he can score the ball. Yeah, he can strike the ball. But is that what the primary responsibility of a midfielder should be, to score a goal? You got to distribute. You got to find people open. You got to create chances. He just doesn't have that. He's not creative on the ball. And he's supposed to be a Ballon d'Or candidate. Sometimes I don't blame FIFA for giving Messi and Ronaldo these trophies all these years, because these guys are not world-class players. Vinicius, Bellingham is not creative enough. He can't create on the ball. He's not technically gifted. And so that's an issue that has plagued England for a lot of years. And this is an issue that starts from kids at a young age in England. The problem is the English system prioritizes strength, speed, and power way too much. There's no finesse in English players. There's no technique. They can't pick out passes. They don't have vision. They're not cerebral. Meaning, as a midfielder, you gotta be 2 moves ahead. When the ball comes to you, you already know what you're doing. You saw the midfielders really struggle today because they were just slow. Rodri is 2 moves ahead. He gets the ball on his feet. He knows what he's doing. Boom. The ball is gone. Bellingham was just losing the ball too much because he's slow. Mainu, I felt bad. It almost felt like he was about to call the cops, because every time he touched the ball, it looked like it was an assault, because Spanish players were just swarming him. Too slow on the ball, and that's what you're seeing. These Jordan Henderson, Eze, Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips was good for England. He went to a team where you're supposed to be technically gifted in City, doesn't play because he's not good. And these are the type of midfielders that you're seeing from England. Box-to-box midfielder, fast, strong. But they can't pick out passes. They don't have vision. They don't make the best decisions in the final third. The last two good midfielders that England had is Steven Gerrard and David Beckham. And that's why you saw Steven Gerrard and Lampard struggle all these years. Because Lampard was just more of a second striker than a midfielder. They just can't create. Until England understand that soccer is not all about speed, power, and strength, you're going to keep having these issues. You don't have Iniesta, you don't have the Xavis, those finesse guys who can just pinpoint people from anywhere on the field. They don't have that until they understand that sometimes soccer is about timing, precision, movement. They're just going to keep failing. All these years, they're not going to win a major tournament anytime soon. So we've talked about the lack of technique in English midfielders. Too fast, too powerful, dynamic, but not really the best decision makers. Not a lot of accurate passes, just not cerebral with their play. They don't think two moves ahead. Just very slow when it comes to decision making that we saw all throughout the tournament. I wanted to give you guys some stats that will blow your mind. So I decided to look at all the midfielders that have had 2 or more assists in all the major international tournament. So we're talking about World Cup and Euro. Since 2008, only midfielders and only Europeans. I grouped them by countries. So I just want to list out the big countries, the big soccer countries. Germany has had 6 since 2008. Schweinsteiger, Ozil, and Cruz. Belgium has had 4. Italy, who's really known for more defense than offense. When we think about when we think about Italy, we don't think about creative midfielder. They've had 4. Spain, obviously, that's the heaven for midfielders. They've had David Silva, Fabregas, Iniesta, Xavi. They've had 8. France has had 7. You know how many England has had since 2008? They've only had 2. Steven Gerrard and David Beckham in 2006. That's just sad. I went ahead and looked at the top 10 assist leaders in the EPL from last year till 2014. So 10 years span. And I decided to also group them. I only looked at midfielders and I grouped them by countries. Since 2014, we're only looking at the top 10. France have had 4 midfielders be in the top 10 since 2014. Spain have had 6. Germany has had 4. Belgium, obviously with Kevin De Bruyne, he's almost top 10 every year. They've had 7. You know how many England has had? Dead last with 3. In their own league. What you're noticing is, and to show you even more stats, if you look at the last 5 World Cup winners, they've always had that one guy that's kind of finesse, pick out passes, very technically gifted. If you look at Argentina, they've had Messi. If you look at France, they've had Griezmann. If you look at Germany, they've had Ozil and Cruz. If you look at Italy, Pirlo. If you look at Brazil, Brazil is the only exception because they're so supremely talented. Usually, they don't need any great midfielders. I mean, that 2002 World Cup, they had Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Ronaldo on the same squad. I mean, one more creativity you don't need. You don't need any creativity. Just give them the ball, they'll do the rest. So aside from Brazil, every team needs that creative force in the middle. If you look, even if you look at the Euro, if you look at this year's Euro, Spain had Rodri. If you look at 2020, Italy had Verratti. Before that, Portugal had Moutinho. Before that, Spain in 2012 in 2008, they've had too many that I can count. Xavi, Iniesta, Fabregas, Silva. And so what you're seeing is a trend of teams that need a creative dude in the middle. And England seems to not understand that. And they got guys like Bellingham who are fast, who can score. But what happens if nobody's putting you in a position to score? What do? Declan Rice ain't the guy. Clearly, you're not the guy, Bellingham. And you haven't had that guy in a long time since Steven Gerrard and David Beckham. And so until they understand that soccer is not all power, they're going to keep failing every single year. I want to congratulate Spain again. It was a great victory. I never thought England was going to be in the position that they were in today. I thought they were poor all tournament. I thought Spain was brilliant all tournament. They were amazing. They were the better team. I couldn't believe it. I'm not going to lie. To be honest, I looked at so England. I know who England is. Too much speed, too much power. They're going to choke. And you could see the cracks since the beginning. They're having a hard time beating Slovakia, barely got to Switzerland. So it was just hard for them. It was going to be hard for them to win. But Spain, they were a good team. I knew they were a good team, but I had my questions. I look at the roster and I look at the defense. Laporte plays in Saudi Arabia, I believe. Nacho, not really that much, never been a starter in Madrid. It was kind of like a spare man all his career. Cucurella, not really the best defender in the world. He's more of an attacking player he's more of an attacking back than the defensive back. Even then, he's not that great of an attacking back either. So I looked at that roster and I'm looking at that defense. I'm like, well, who are they going to stop? If they play Mbappe, they're just going to get annihilated. That was my line of thinking. And then when I also looked at the midfield was good. But when I look at the offense, I'm like, okay, they're going to be good. But Nico Williams is a kid. Yamal is a kid. He's 16 years old. What can he actually do in a big tournament? Yeah, they're going to get through the group stage. But they're going to be, when they get to the big games against France, they're going to struggle. Yamal is too young. And we saw that with Mainu today. He was just young. The moment was too big for him. Boy, I was wrong. My goodness. This dude, Nico Williams, for me, was the best player on the field today. What is he not good at? He can go left. He can go right. His ball placement on his services was just magnificent. This guy, I just don't know what his weakness is. His passing, his vision, he was good. I believe if Barcelona get this guy on their team next year, between him and Yamal, they're back. They're back. If Barcelona makes the call and they're able to sign Nico Williams, it's over. It's really over for Europe. This combination of Yamal on the right and Nico Williams was just deadly. Yamal is sensational. 4 assists in the tournament. Is he really 18? Is he really 16? I need to see his birth certificate at this point. How can you have that kind of poise? How can you have that kind of patience? How can you have that kind of vision? There are grown men in that tournament who could make simple passes. Bellingham could barely make a pass. This dude had poise, patience, could see the field well. It was amazing. And I thought Rodri getting out the game in the second half, they kind of lost possession a little bit. England started having the ball a little more. I think it had to do with him with him going out, he wasn't able to affect the dude who came in for was not able to affect the game like he usually does. But Rodri is the best defensive midfielder in the world. There's no debate, no question. His ball distribution is amazing. This guy is 3 moves ahead. While you trying to close him down, the ball is already out of his feet. He's basically Busquets and Casemiro in one. He's not as good as Busquets on the ball, but he's really close. He's not as good as Casemiro defensively, but he's close enough. This goal is perfect. Power, strength, precision, vision. He's just amazing to watch. And congratulations to Spain. They have a great future. They didn't even have the best passer, one of the creative passer in the midfielder from Barcelona who got hurt. They didn't even have him. They didn't have Gavi. I didn't even think the guy who plays for PSG, who was a starter, I never thought he was good to begin with. I've watched him all season at PSG. He wasn't good. But he came out today and looked like a star. I mean, he looked like a star all tournament. So congratulations to Spain. You have a great future. I think you're going to be really good in the World Cup. And I believe that Barcelona needs to sign Nico Williams. He is that guy. I hope that he doesn't go to the EPL. Too much physicality. I think he should stay in La Liga. He was a top assist. I think he was second or third in assist, or maybe first. He's really good. He's one of those prospects that he cannot fail. Because he's not a one-trick pony. He can pass. He can take players one-on-one. He can shoot. His movement is great. He's just got so many talent that he just cannot fail. So I just think it was a great tournament for Spain. I'm honestly shocked. I never thought they would get past France. So great job, Spain. Rodri, you're the best midfielder in the world. If the next person who's gonna compare you to Declan Rice need to be smacked in the face, and congratulations. One of the worst things you can do to yourself is lie to yourself, telling yourself that you're good when you're not good. It keeps you from being motivated. It keeps you from waking up every day to work harder because you think you've achieved something that you haven't achieved yet. And that's what you get from the English media who tell the players every single day, Declan Rice is a world-class player. Saka is a world-class player. Bellingham is a Ballon d'Or candidate. When in reality, a lot of those guys are average to below average players. And those sort of lies is what we got from Herve Renard this past weekend. Herve Renard made a very controversial statement. He said that the Afcon is less predictable than the Euro. It's more interesting. There's more passion. For those who don't know Herve Renard, he's a legendary French coach who's had a lot of success coaching teams in Africa and in Asia. He won the Afcon with Ivory Coast in 2014. He won the Afcon with Zambia in 2012. And he led Saudi Arabia in its first World Cup qualification since 2002. And for those who remember, 2002 is when Saudi Arabia played Germany in his first game and lost 7-0. And under his leadership, they actually had a good World Cup. They actually gave Argentina a run for their money. So nobody could question his pedigree. He's a really good coach. He's credible. However, Herve Renard has grown bitter. He has grown bitter because his dream is to coach one of the big teams. That's every coach's dream, is to coach one of the big teams where you actually have a chance to win something. And he feels like he's had all the success in Africa, all the success in Asia, that he should be able to land a job with Portugal, Belgium, France, one of these big teams. And for whatever reason, he's usually not even a candidate when there's an opening. And that has made him bitter towards the Europeans. And I don't even understand why he's never considered because he's really good. But clearly he has grown bitter. This statement is just nonsense. It's not backed by any data. It's not backed by any eye test. It's just completely nonsense. The Euro is way better than Afcon. It's not even comparable. The Copa America is better than Afcon. It's not, and they got teams like Argentina and Colombia and Brazil. It hasn't even reached the level of Euro. The Euro has just gone to a different level when we're talking about quality of soccer. He talked about predictability, that the Afcon is just less predictable than the Euro because you seem to know kind of which teams have a chance to win. That's the case for every cup, whether it's the Asian Cup, whether it's the Afcon, it's the Euro, it's the World Cup. There's always this big soccer team who either just have too much talent or are just bigger, so they have a lot more options to choose from, like Brazil. They just have an advantage. When you go to the Asian Cup, Japan has a chance, Korea has a chance, Iran has a chance, Australia has a chance. It's never going to be Bahrain. It's never going to be Uzbekistan. Just like in Africa, it's always going to be either Algeria, Nigeria, Egypt, maybe Cameroon. It's always going to be someone, or Ivory Coast. It's always going to be one of these teams. So it's also predictable. Just like in Europe, it's going to be France, either France, Germany, Spain, Netherlands. So this idea that the Afcon is less predictable is just nonsense. And if we want to talk about the Euro in terms of quality, they're doing things that we don't do in Africa. In Europe, the goalkeeper has become a player. He actually takes part in the build-up. He actually has to make passes. When he's under pressure, he doesn't necessarily just have to clear. He actually has to make reads. That's something we don't have in Africa. Matter of fact, Onana got in trouble in the World Cup with the coach because he was doing that a lot. And the coach felt like he was taking too much of a risk. It is risky, but it's part of soccer now. It's part of European soccer, and we just lag behind. They got mad at him because they felt like he was doing that and it was too risky. So that's where we at. For us, it's risky. In Europe, it's necessary. Teams in Europe are able to build from the back. Defenders have to control the ball. Defenders have to be able to play with their feet. It's not just the defending is not just good enough. You actually have to be able to make passes, to make reads under pressure. And African defenders just don't have that. And when we were talking about the goalkeeper, Mendy was a guy, a Senegalese goalkeeper, who just couldn't play with his feet, and he got in trouble at Chelsea. And that's one of the reasons why they got rid of him. Too many mistakes. When we're talking about another new concept in terms of formation, the back three, when you have three center backs and two wing backs, it allows your wing backs to go up to attack more. And so a lot of time, one of the weaknesses of the back three is that you're more prone to, when you get hit on counters, it's a problem because you have less numbers than what you would have had with a back of four. And so on counters, you are exposed. And so when you're playing with a back of three, you have to be able to make passes, make accurate passes. You can't just lose the ball close to your box because you're exposed to counterattacks. In Africa, that concept is, I'm not sure if there are teams who play with back of three, but it's not really very common. It's just not. I've never seen my country play like that. And so in Europe, they're doing things that we don't do in Africa just because they've reached another level. Even if we have to compare both competitions using the eye test, we don't have a Rodri who can distribute the ball at the level that he distributes the ball. His passing accuracy was in the high 90s. We just don't have a midfielder like that. We don't have a Mbappe. We don't have a Jorginho. We don't have this great technical player that the Europeans seem to have. Trent Alexander, he's able to pick out players from anywhere on the field, pinpoint accuracy. We just don't have that. Even if you do an eye test, the Nico Williams of the world, he's basically good at everything. Left foot, right foot. He can make passes. His delivery was impeccable. We just don't have that. So even in the eye test, we fail. If we look at that data, actually things, numbers that we can actually compare. If you looked at the Afcon games, the average number of fouls was in the high 30s. That's really high. If we look at the semifinals, Ivory Coast versus Congo, 30 fouls. Nigeria versus South Africa, 33 fouls. Cape Verde versus South Africa, 34 fouls. Angola versus Nigeria, 34 fouls. That's a high number of fouling. If you compare that number to the Euro, for example, if we look at the finals that was played between Spain and France, 25 fouls. Netherlands, England, 17 fouls. Spain, England, 16 fouls. So a lot of the games in Europe don't even reach 20. In Afcon, 20 is impossible. They're always in the 30s. And if you also look at if we look at the possession data, in the last Afcon, the average of 12 sequence. The most teams average 12 sequence of 10 plus passes. 12 sequence of 10 plus passes. That's fewer than the half of the Copa and the Euro numbers. It's not even just less, but less than half. So what this data is showing you is that the quality of African soccer is a lot of fouls and a lot of teams who can't keep possession. They can't move the ball. So a lot of these African teams rely on second balls, kick the ball, hope one of your players win a header. And you mean to tell me this is the soccer that's supposed to be more interesting than the Euro? I understand that the Afcon, the last Afcon was better than the previous Afcon. I understand that there was a lot of surprises. Just because there's a lot of surprises doesn't make the quality of the game better. It just doesn't. There's too much fouling and guys can't make passes. African soccer is honestly struggling, if we're being honest. It really is. If we look at the World Cup knockout stats since 2002 for Africans, if we compare the number of African teams who make it to the knockout stage in the World Cup compared to other continent, we're gonna exclude South America because obviously they're in a different level. We can exclude Europe. If we compare Africa to Asia and North America since 2002, since the World Cup 2002, African have had 6 teams make it to the knockout stage. Asia has had 8. North America has had 10. So we're dead last. And I don't know where he got this idea that we're better. In reality, if we look at also the World Cup, if you look at the World Cup stats of teams who have made it past the round of 16 in Africa, the last team who actually played well and made it past the round of 16 was Ghana in 2010. That was a hell of a team. Prince Boateng. It was just a hell of a team. Ever since then, it's been really bad. In 2014, not a single African team made it past the round of 16. In 2018, they didn't even qualify to the knockout stage. In 2022, Morocco made it, but that was some of the ugliest soccer I've ever seen. This team literally came every game and said, we're not going to play soccer. We're going to stay back, defend with everybody, and just hope somehow we score some lucky goals off of a counter. That's sorry. That's just bad soccer. And as an African, I couldn't be proud of that. That was really bad. It's a recipe that's never going to win you or anything. And it's not replicable because they're going to try that in the next World Cup and teams are going to be ready for it. And it's just not going to work. And so we're not even doing good in the World Cup. To say that the games in the Europe was not fun, did you see Georgia versus Spain? The electric counterattacking of Georgia? I don't even know Georgia. I live in Dallas and I'm not even sure Georgia's bigger than Dallas as a country. And they were able to produce that level of soccer. Turkey. So to say that the Afcon is better than the Euro, it's just you're speaking out of bitterness, man. It's just not right. In reality, the African soccer is struggling. We're struggling when it comes to passes. We don't have good midfielders. If you look at some of the midfielders that we've been producing in the last couple of years, a few years ago we had good midfielders. We had JJ Okocha, we had Yaya Toure. Those are good midfielders, very talented offensively, very good on the ball. If you look at some of the midfielders we're producing now, they seem to all have the same qualities. They all seem to be very limited offensively. They all seem to be very dynamic and very good defensively. Most of their strength is ball retrieval. When it comes to making reads, making passes, making good reads on the final third, these midfielders aren't good. I could start listening. Thomas Partey, not really a technically gifted player. Kessie, not gifted. Ndidi, more of a defensive player. Guay, defensive. Iwobi, he's not even a midfielder, if we're being honest. He's more of a winger, but it's England. They have these weird wingers. They have these weird midfielders who they claim are midfielders, but are not really good. So offensively, he's not gifted. He's not gonna make the right reads. He's not gonna make accurate passes. Naby Keita is probably the only offensively gifted midfielder that we have currently. And so I disagree with Herve Renard's logic. The Afcon is not better than the Europe. Lying to us is not helping Africa grow. African soccer needs improvement. Yes, we have talent, but the talent is not nurtured properly. The lack of infrastructure. These kids don't get taught techniques. We're struggling with free kicks. We're struggling with just basic stuff that are taught to Europeans when they're young. And so, no, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You're talking out of bitterness. You're better than that. Thank you guys for listening to The Guru. See you next time.